It's my privilege to introduce you to Marcello, who's going to expand our thinking about the European health data space. At least I think that's what you're going to do, Marcello. So welcome.
How many hours I have?
You know
I'm Italian.
Well, yeah, exactly. And so, actually, so am I, but only by association.
Good, very good.
Yeah.
Thank you, thank you.
My family ran a shop in Naples.
Oh, good. Absolutely.
You see?
So you are selling good things, of course.
Yes, the weird things that happen to us life, eh?
So, friends, so happy to see you. Oh, you see, it's no longer written Lombardy because I'm supposed to be retired, but I continue working. Now I'm working with the Catholic University, but I will continue doing all the best things I'm always doing. So, for those who don't know me, okay, Marcello Melgara, of course. Apart from all my old history, I was among those who created the EPSIS project, that was the large-scale pilot to set up the directive for cross-border and the pilot the service, and then continue working on that. So we started, it was 2006 and 2007 when we started, and we are continuing and also now continuing in many other things that are put here. So all the work group, Daniel, many friends around here. So you know that in Europe Commission, where of course the big DGs, Connect, Santé, and DigiDigit, and there is the health network. The health network is the board, the voluntary board of the Ministry of Health of Europe. And under this, there are very active and practical work group on semantic and technical interoperability. Daniel is chairing the one on semantic, Panayot is chairing the one on technical. And then there is the layer for the implementation of the My Health at You, meaning the service for cross-border. And now we have this joint action. I will speak about it very, very quickly, the joint action to help the Commission to prepare the implementing act to make the regulation a reality. So, well, European health data space. One word here. You know, when Garibaldi and the King of Italy create Italy, said, we create Italy now, we have to create the Italian. Almost 200 years ago, we don't have Italian yet. We have the Europe, but we don't have the European yet. And the comment I was about to say, you know the big difference between the common law and the Latin rights. The same big difference are in the way of thinking of physician in the Mediterranean area and in the Scandinavian area. So we are the both. They write. So coding in the north will be easier than in the south. And this is a comment we must keep in mind. So it's not just a matter of having a system. It's not the matter of having vendors. It's not the matter of having a code system. But it's really a way of creating a common way of thinking. And sometime I mentioned about the seamless interoperability of minds. And this is something that should be somehow achieved if we want to have coded data. That was my previous comment. Sorry if I mentioned here. And now the point for the regulation is define, of course, harmonize, yes, impose. And it's the point in which a regulation makes the difference between a directive and a regulation. So now we are imposing, it's not the Commission, but we are imposing to ourselves rules, standards to be followed. In mind of having the creation, not just a European. We made also some project in the past based on the EU-US Memorandum of Understanding. It was great, really, to create this interoperability for most for patient summary between EU and US. That was great activity. In order to create the document, create the data, get is what we are mentioning from the patient standpoint. I must be able to get my data, and get is get. Share, again, use, primary use, reuse, secondary use. Health data and document. And okay, the regulation is what we are hopefully aiming to. with a timing that is not too short, is quite long, but in order to do all what is required, in order to have this sort of harmonization, standardization on electronic health record system is extremely hard. And because electronic health record can be almost everything, and I don't think we are able to go for everything. We should start top down from the major one and then increase to the other one. And the service to allow the European electronic health record exchange format. And here is, oh, well, one by one, okay. Let's do. So the normal suspects are always the same. The patient summary and the electronic prescription were written into the beginning of the regulation as first example to be digged in. So it was 2006 to 2007. Until now, we don't have yet common way of understanding of the patient summary. So now is the timing for taking decision on that. Is it useful? Oh yes, we think so. Is it redundant? Maybe. Can be superseded by other document? We will see. Prescription, again, seems to be easy, but at the end I have some other additional slide on coding medication that can make evident that it is not as easy as expected. For the others are there with a small difference, because until now we were working on hospital discharge, and in the regulation is mentioned discharge, so enlarging a lot the scope of this kind of document. Laboratory result, report, there, images, image report, image result, image studies, and many things. And the point is really to create the implementing act by the Commission that will provide indication on the common specification and guidelines to be used for implementation at national level, first of all, and cross-border. Yes, and an idea is these guidelines should allow vendors to build system. Oh my God, I am a technician, I'm an engineer. I know the level of specification that are needed in order to. We know that sense standards are not good for interoperability. We need something much more detailed, like IHE, profile, etc. And even it's not enough. So if we aim really to provide specification that will allow vendors to build, it's a very hard job, and this must be very gradual. Going? Sorry, I don't know, okay. So these are some screenshot of the regulation, only to say that what I was saying, in fact, it is indicated that this common specification should contain functional, semantic, technical requirements, security requirements, blah, 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 blah. Everything is normal, sorry, but also value set. And we know that if we want to be interoperable, value set associated to a specific code system is a must. And this is the point that we could achieve at cross-border level, but at national level it represents a big problem and basic issue. So this slide is only to say that it is a very complex, but not complex word playing around this point. So a galaxy, yes, we have on the top the Commission, the DG Connect, the DG Santé, the health network that I was already mentioning with the subgroups, and the My Health at You. So you have to think, the high level is for strategic political directions and guidelines. My Health at You is the implementation of the cross-border services. So it's really technically oriented, project specific, etc. And many other projects working in the Galaxy, starting from ex-opsos to the current one until the joint action and many other I don't want to mention. And very extremely important, the column on the right, the SDO. because if at the beginning we started from the H7, CCD, CDA, etc., now we are writing the guideline and the specification fully based on international standards. So HL7, IHE, etc., and based on international code system. So let's forget about national coding. Let's go for the international one. So, okay, this is only to say an explanation. We said that at the high level, the EHDS network is creating the guideline, but this guideline are created by experts from the member state. And these guidelines are then consolidated with the support of the national stakeholder and SDO in order to validate them. And Daniel knows it very well. When we went through the consolidation of the last version of the patient summary guideline, we received about 700 comments to be integrated. And it was the manifestation of a great will of providing good guideline. And the guideline have been adopted by the Minister of Health of Europe and the Commission with two levels. For a voluntary implementation at national level, so each of us, after the process, say, yes, we will follow the guideline in our country. Then the second level is on a normative level. We must start from this guideline to create the cross-border interoperability. So the two levels, voluntary and normative. But after a very long consolidation process. Again, always the same services. I don't want to mention, and there should be another things here appearing. Yoo-hoo! Okay. Now there is an ongoing process in which we are re-engineering the guideline in order to make them more homogeneous, more modular, and more oriented to the need of the future, that is the European health data space. And this is a great activity we're doing at this level with many friends in this room. The guidelines are technology independent and project independent. These are the contents to say that are matching most of the part of the request in the regulation. What is missing here? The cardinalities, and it is missing the value set. But the preferred code system are already indicated in the guidelines. So SNOMED, this one here, is mentioned in several points. Where is it? Okay. Is mentioned in, for several data elements, is mentioned SNOMED, LOINC, and ICT, and the code system connected to the implementation of the ISO DMP by EMA-SPOR for coding medication. And another important code system we added recently are the orphanet nomenclature for rare disease. So we are already ready for the rare disease coding. Oh, sorry. embedded PDF for lab report, image report, and hospital discharge. And we're working for the implementation of the lab result and the other document in FHIR. And maybe there is a plan of migrating also patient summary and the prescription to FHIR, but it is a medium long-term plan. And then we have also an OpenMCP implementation that now will support both the exchange of CDA document on IHE profiles and FHIR document, FHIR bundles. And also the testing strategy and the conformance check. So we are at the level in which we have all the needed data for cross-border to be validated according to the situation in the country. Okay, this is a plan of the countries going live, and you see we are 29, because 27 European plus Norway plus Iceland, for patient summary and prescription. So coming here to the EHRXF is really to work to create the specification and the guideline for the implementing act. Consider the maturity level. As I mentioned before, the maturity level is not a reality of member state, is not a reality of the country, but is the reality of the way in which doctors are creating the document. Of course, all the countries have provided common specification for structured and coded data, but the point of which they are being adopted is quite different from the north of Europe to the south of Europe. So we, in Italy, we have this specification in place since some year, but the quantity of structured and coded document is still limited. And this is the reality. So it's not a matter of a country being beyond, or is really a matter of attitude also of physicians. So we have to increase the mind. And the approach that we are adopting now is this sort of layered and model-based and modular approach. What does it mean? Layer, we saw that the specification should start from the requirement, the general requirement, go to the functional requirement, go to the semantic specification, technical specification. So the first approach will be to provide the basic criteria that must be common for everybody at national level and can be accepted for everybody at national level. The model-based, I'm looking to Ruth and our friends, we have been working until now to somehow flat model, so we need the functional model to describe the concept and to build this system in a editable and modular way. And modular, what does it mean? It means that if there are elements, think to the medication. Medication is present in all the document. Patient summary, okay, prescription of course, patient summary, we have a medication summary, hospital discharge, we have medication, even labs and image report, we have indication of medication. So it is important to have common module that can be built and reused in every single specification, common specification and guideline. This is the concept of the modular approach we are starting developing together. What else? Okay, this is the zooming that I was mentioning before. How many minutes I have yet? How many minutes?
You've got at least 10 minutes.
Okay, thank you. So this, I will not go into detail too much, but this is an example of something that seems easy, because of course, doctors, my wife is a doctor, she is an oncologist, hematologist, and when she talks to others, is extremely verbose. She's verbose in her life, and she's also verbose while writing a report, but he tries to be very clear and explaining many aspects that a code may help, but in the reality, a code is not enough for the Mediterranean doctors, okay? Maybe it's good for the northern one or the Anglo-Saxon one, but in Italy at least it's not like that. And this is a point to be considered. And even for medication that apparently they are easily, fully codable, the reality is that in the country, the level of readiness of providing coded data anyway for describing a medication is still far to be achieved. We have at national level a way of coding the boxes, because you prescribe a box, you sell a box, and you dispense a box. But when you are entering into the description, root hours here knows it very well. It is extremely hard to get all the coded data available. Okay. In Unicom, we have been working for some years in order, we started in Epsos, we have another project, Open Medicine, and in Unicom, we tried to put together the major stakeholder, meaning EMA on one side, the National Competent Authority for the Registration of Drugs, the health agencies, and also user. And it was a hard job. We start smelling to each other, partially understanding each other, but there are still gaps to be filled. Oh, yeah, I'm clicking, it is not going ahead. Bye, yoo-hoo. Okay, I have to say thank you to some friends in the room. Christian, Robert, etc., for the slide I'm presenting now. Thank you, friends. And it is nice. These slides are very nice because they are introducing the point from a life cycle model. And if we think to the life cycle model, maybe we can understand where are the problems. And of course, the first step is, okay, I don't read, you know. These are almost all the stakeholders involved in the process related to the medication life cycle. Many, too many, I don't know, all relevant, all relevant. The least important one is, of course, the patient, who bothers about the patient, as usual. We have marvelous standards, extremely complex standards that are driving us toward a reliable, unified, safe way of coding, the ISO, IDMP, identification of a medicinal product, set of standards. We are starting following, yes, EMA is starting following, and this is the most important point because EMA, sorry, and FDA here, there are also non-European countries. So it is a way of going. We had the chance of working in the G7 e-health group, and in the guideline, EMA was, IDMP was mentioned as a guideline all over the world. You know, G7 goes from the Canada, US to the Japan. So this is a really common willingness to adopt the standard in the correct way, hopefully. And in the registration, there is a process now that is almost consolidated, by which a unified way of coding the medication at the several levels, from substances to pharmaceutical product, medicinal product, and up, has been almost standardized. EMA is providing now, is opening the PMS system in order to provide coded data, and the flow of information between the central level, EMA, and the national level is established. It has to be set, it has to be used, but the basic point is that all coded data related to medication start here. And they are based, unfortunately or hopefully, on the way in which EMA has indicated the way of coding the medication. That is not through common standard, international standard, but according to a national coding, but an internal coding, not national coding, but they guarantee the full interoperability between the internal coding and the external one. Okay, sorry. The one on the left is the very simple and easy to be understood IDMP model. Now entering in the practice, again we have the same actors. We start having support system for prescription, And this is extremely important to have what is then the creation of the prescription. And the creation of the prescription for the dispensation, we were discussing yesterday with Ruth. We are mostly aiming now to the street pharmacists, to the prescribing and dispensing of products, but we should also start thinking to another reality that are the hospital prescription and administration. That is slightly, totally different as an approach, but we have to think to that, and yesterday Ruth stimulated us a lot on this. And okay, this is the model for the cross-border. You know, we are able to exchange document created in a country, transformed and translated into the language of the country of use. But in the reality, translation was a dream at this time. If we look into the document that are received, there are at least 3 languages. The original language for the narrative part of the CDA, that is largely used to describe information. The English, because it's supposed to be everything transcoded, mapped into English, and hopefully translated in the country of treatment. And this means that this part is on a voluntary base, so the document received may have 3 languages, not just the final language. And okay, these are the data that are the basics for coding the medication. And they are, as you see, this is the minimum set of data to be used to provide coded data on medication. The reality is that we allow the substitution of some of this part with textual description, because not all the countries are still ready, but this is the point on which we have to aim. And for substances, up there is written SMS. That means 65,000 concepts for substances, plus CDQM, plus. And the final one is the utilization, and I want to mention the great work of the Gravitate Health in order to help this final part of the life cycle. So thank you, and sorry if I talk too much as usual.
I don't think you spoke too much at all, Marcello. It was all great stuff. And questions to you, I don't know if there are any on the...
So there are 2 questions online, not necessarily directly at Marcello, but I do think they're interesting questions. One is in the context of things like the EHRXF. Can industry participate in the development of the standards? I would say the answer would be yes, unless someone's going to tell me otherwise. And linked to that is what I think is a really interesting one, because it's come up in other areas. So from an industry perspective, if industry are given standards like the EHRXF, does the Commission essentially, or does Europe, the projects, provide synthetic data for them to test it?
I can answer to some question.
I'll just raise the questions.
No, so patient summary is now quickly tending to the ISO SEN HL7 International Patient Summary. So this is an international standard. Prescription is already compliant with the HL7 IHE e-pharmacy. Lab report is based on the HL7 lab group. Images, we are working together with the HL7 team on that, and et cetera, et cetera. So we are starting from the standard. In XTHR, there is as I mentioned in the slide, stakeholders were already involved. So when in Italy, I can say I performed the sharing and the quizzing on the guideline, I sent to the major stakeholder, and major vendors. And I'm expected we did the same via other member states. In EHR, we have the stakeholder group that is really requested to contribute to the refinement. As for the synthetic data, we have already some synthetic data used for testing in the cross-border. So there are the critical data, representative test data that can be used by everybody to build examples. So there are clinical cases that are commonly agreed, and this is the starting point that everybody can use, and they're open for everybody.
Thank you very much. There's a question over there.
Can you hear me? Yes, okay, thank you.
We can now.
Isabelle Ziegler, I'm a member of the board of SNOMED. One thing I really want to point out, Marcello, based on your wonderful slide, but very colorful slide, certainly with all the standards, and then which mentioned a little bit of a mess, and in terms of standard, and an IDMP, which is using a different coding system for indication, which is MEDRA. So we are using something different. So it's really a big mess, but there's a huge value in SNOMED, which is one of the strategic objectives that has been agreed as well as part of the new strategy, as was there before, is SNOMED as an integrator. SNOMED, and that's really a big difference with all the other terminology, and what's the strength is that it is mapped and continually be mapped with all the teams, but also behind as that hierarchy of concept, which allow other terminology to come in much more easily in a meaningful sense. And that's the value because semantic is so important. And we need to keep that in mind, even in the context of EHRXF, because I don't know otherwise how we could exchange prescription with indication which are different than what we use with SNOMED in clinical care. But the mapping exists, and we need to continue working on this.
We are not using MEDRA in e-health. We are using ICD-10, we are using other things. MEDRA is not among the preferred code system in the guideline nor in the. However, MEDRA is indicated as mandatory by the regulation on the medication. So you have, of course, we recognize the extreme value of SNOMED, and if you allow me, I can make another 10-second comment, but there are obligations there that EMA and the NCA must use, and of course, there is a lot of richness in that. I didn't mention a point. Maybe some of you remember AssessCT project. In the AssessCT was a project to assess the relevance of SNOMED or other system, and there was a small task that at that time was a university activity of automatic annotation with SNOMED concept of free text. At that time was ambitious. Maybe this could be extremely useful, and all what you are also mentioning is important. And we know that, for example, Spain is using several code systems, but using as the underlying terminology and concept as SNOMED in order to remap everything. So this is a way of thinking for the future. Thank you.
Fantastic. I think we better draw it to a close there. Thank you so much, Marcello.
Very kind of you.